What's good, YouTube? I'm back, and it's your boy Michael MOORSHOTZ. So I've been out again. This is like, I kind of like say this every time when I'm doing these videos, like I'm back, I'm back, I'm back, I'm back. But for real, guys, I am back, and I'm gonna be dropping a ton of videos. I was away for a while because of my work. I work so much. I don't know why, but I have to. But I work a lot, and I'm back now, and I'm gonna be giving you guys content. I'm gonna be letting you guys know the projects I've been working on, everything I've been doing lately, and you guys are gonna really see everything I've been doing. I've been piling everything up, like, piling. So I'm ready to dish all my knowledge out to you guys. So I'm back. When you start using a new camera or a new camera system, you really gotta really test it out thoroughly to make sure that you get knowledge of it and you understand how to use it and everything about it, before you really can, talk about it. So I'm here today, and this video is all about the S5, the Lumix S5. I've had this camera for almost a year now, and I've used it literally every single day that I got this camera. And I think at this point I've used this camera back and forth. I've taken this camera everywhere, traveled with it, and I understand this camera. Even when I close my eyes, I can operate this camera. And now I want to let you guys know everything I've been doing with this camera and show you what I've done so far, and talk about why this camera is my favorite camera of 2021. So let's get right into it, guys. So with this review, I have broken it down to like 4 major points that I'm going to be talking about specifically for this camera, and what I think is my favorite points of this camera. And I've just broken it down to 4 points, so let's get right into it. So the very first point I'm going to be talking about this camera that I love so much is that this camera has dual native ISO. So now, if you know what that means, it's very beneficial for a camera to have that, which basically means in low light I can have certain ISOs and boost it up to certain ISOs, and I'll still have clean images. So now this camera, S5, Lumix S5, and I think it goes throughout the whole S series cameras. The dual native ISO is 640 and 4000. So when I'm at ISO 640, my image is clean. In low light, when I'm shooting at night and I leave my ISO at 4000, it's crispy. No, no noise. Hardly you see any noise at all. Every time I use it, it's crisp. I hardly use any, I hardly see any noise in it. So the dual native ISO in this camera is very nice. I can shoot at night, low light, and get very clean image. It's wonderful to have clean image at all times. It's especially when you have a camera that cannot shoot at night and can't shoot in low light. Then that's a very risky camera to buy, because you then have to start thinking about buying a lens that has an aperture of like 1.4, 1.8, 1.2, stuff like that. I mean, I have lenses that at 1.4 and 1.2 and all that sorts, but having a camera as well that can shoot at night in low light conditions is very beneficial. So that's one point that I love about this camera. So now my second point and most favorite point of all about this camera is the ability to shoot 6K. Now I know that's not a lot of people's concern, but for me, I've used all kinds of cameras. I've used red cameras, I've used Blackmagic cameras, high resolution cameras basically that can shoot 6K, 8K. And I'm a very big fan of shooting high resolution, because we're in the day and age where everything is 4K now. Back then people normally shoot 1080p or 720, but now at least the standard right now is 4K. But we're having our TV screens are now being built in 8K. You can watch 8K footage right now on the TV screen. So once you have that high resolution for your footage and you upload it to like YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you're uploading your stuff, it's gonna come out crispy. It's gonna come out very nice. It's gonna come out very great. Years to come from now, when everything shifts up, because now the basic right now is 4K. Years from now, everything might go up to 8K only, or 6K. So it's like, if your footage was shot in 1080p and you upload it in 1080p in a day of age of now where everything is 4K, your footage is gonna break when we start having everything in 6K and 8K, and you start having to like watch your stuff, and you're gonna be frustrated when you see your stuff is not crispy and it's not sharp. It's just all over the place. So I trust me, I've tested this out several times. When I'm on YouTube and I'm watching other people's stuff and I see a lot of people are still shooting in 1080p, especially a lot of music videos, and I kind of like figure like why, like you guys are using high resolution camera, so why are you still shooting in 1080? But to each his own. I'm a very big supporter of shooting in high resolution, so if your camera does allow you to shoot high resolution, please do. Now with this Lumix X5, I'm allowed to shoot 6K using the Atomos Ninja 5. Right now the Atomos Ninja updated their monitor, and they have a Ninja 5 Plus that would allow me to shoot 8K on this camera. I haven't gotten that monitor yet, but once I do, I'll test it out. That allows me to shoot 8K raw. Not just 8K, 8K raw. Right now I'm shooting 6K raw out of this camera. This camera is under $2,000. That's just insane. Like, it's insane. Not only that, the raw ProRes raw image is clean. When you shoot raw, it allows you to manipulate, colors when you're, editing and stuff. If if your white balance is off when you're recording raw would allow you to shift the white balance and put it to where it needs to be. That's just, a basic, breakdown of the reason why to shoot raw is necessary and why I shoot raw. Plus, I shoot vlog on this camera and raw at the same time, so I'm getting both. When I used to use Blackmagic cameras, I could only shoot, raw. It wasn't, allowing me to use any like log profile and any kind of sorts. It was just raw. But on this camera, I'm shooting vlog and I'm shooting raw at the same time, so it helps me out with color grading. This camera has 12-bit, if I'm not mistaken. It's clean. This is so sick, guys. For a $2,000 camera under $2,000, guys, it's insane. So that's another point why I love this camera. Another great point, and this is another favorite point of mine, is this camera allows me to choose between shooting with shutter angle or shooting with shutter speed. Now, in the professional cinema world, shutter angle is used most of the time. If we know the rule with the 180-degree rule, then you know what I'm talking about. This is just so sick, guys. Again, for a camera under $2,000, it allows me to choose between shooting shutter angle or shutter speed. And ever since I've been shooting with shutter angle, I've not used shutter speed at all. The camera, basically allows you to, choose between frame rates and not having to dial in, all the other stuff that you gotta dial in when you're shooting with 24 frames, or you're shooting in 60, or you're shooting in 30. Then you gotta calculate, 1/50, 1/60, 1/120, and all that other stuff. When you're on a run and gun shoot, like sometimes I do run and gun stuff, I don't have that, much time to like start dialing in numbers. When I'm shooting on the shutter, when I'm using shutter angle, all I gotta do is just leave it on 180 degree. If I want to shoot 24 frames, I just put it on 24. If I want to go to 60, I put it on 60. If I want to go to 30, put it on 30. It saves me a lot of time, guys, and I've been using this ever since when I found out that this camera does this. So that's a great point. Most professional cinematographers out there use 180-degree rule. It saves a lot of time when you're on set. So that's a great point that this camera has. And again, this is a camera under $2,000. Now, this is another point that is in between. It's a point that's in between, and it's the autofocus. Now, Lumix Panasonic cameras have been terrible with autofocus for a very long time. I myself, like I said in the beginning, I shoot with different cameras. Autofocus is not my main priority. I use manual focus most of the time. But when I'm doing YouTube videos like this, when I'm doing vlogs, autofocus is a necessity, because sometimes you don't have all the time right there to keep dialing in the focus and all that other stuff when you're vlogging. For the most part, the autofocus on this camera has been pretty good. Like right now, as I'm talking to you guys, I'm using continuous autofocus and it's tracking my face pretty much, good. I've used this on, a lot of my shoots. I leave it on continuous autofocus and I set it there and see what it does, and I'm, watching through my monitor, and it racks focus pretty much. good. So it's usable. Ever since the update, you know, the autofocus has been better on the Panasonic cameras. I personally cannot complain because, like I said, I use manual focus most of the time, especially, you know, when I'm doing professional shoots. I think that allows you to focus and dial in focus properly than autofocus for sometimes. Sometimes autofocus is here and there. Sometimes it's a hit and miss, and I'm not a fan of it. But autofocus on this camera has been crispy, clean. I don't have no complaints with this camera. In fact, everything about this camera is pretty much great. I love this camera. So that right there, my guys, my friends, my buddies, YouTube, is my review of this camera. I've used this camera for pretty much everything I've been doing so far. This camera has been reliable. The battery lasts long. For me, I have no complaints with the battery. Also, this camera has a flip-out screen, which is another great point. So it's a great mirrorless camera for under $2,000. Like I said again, I'm able to shoot vlog. I'm able to shoot raw 6K. It has dual native ISO. I can shoot using shutter angle. It has a lot of features that's packed into this small camera, so I'm very, very satisfied with it. No complaints at all. I use this for most of everything I've been doing lately. It's always in my camera bag. I use other cameras for different projects when it's needed, but for the most part, this is the camera I own, and I use this for most of everything I've been shooting. So I love this camera. If you're in the market for a mirrorless camera right now, I would suggest you pick up the Lumix X5. It's great. Ever since I jumped to the Lumix, brand, the Panasonic camera brand, I love it. No issues at all. Trust me, you're not gonna regret this camera at all. So that's my review, guys. Let me know in the comments, what you guys think about this camera. If you own this camera, let me know in the comments also. If you've used this camera in the past, let me know as well. Let me know how it's been for you, what you like about the camera, and what you don't like about the camera. I'd like to also hear you guys review about it. But I'm out, guys. Peace out.